How does this? Oh. You know what? I don't mind the fleets.
I don't mind them. I don't get it. Like, I don't know. It's just another social media platform with a story. So like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But
yeah, for us though, we have a lot more followers on Twitter than Instagram. So
yeah, that's true. It's good for our show. But me personally, I will never probably post a fleet unless it's like pertaining to our show. And I already saw people memeing about how people are gonna, like they do on Instagram, where they put new post. It's gonna be like new tweet.
No.
But it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it will.
And make up your mind.
You ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Around the 412. We are part of allsteelers.com and proudly presented by Crowworthy, where winners are serving winners coast to coast with sports, gambling, fantasy, and more. You can follow Crowworthy at Crowworthy on Twitter and visit us at crowworthy.com. You can also check out the Crowworthy Pittsburgh City page for podcasts just like this one, blogs, and more. I'm Tyler, and with me as always is Smitty. What's going on, man?
We back. I feel like this is kind of this is our time of the year right now. This is when me and you thrive. This fall winter transition where we can always wear hoodies. And speaking of hoodies, got the new one from Around the 412 by Crowworthy. You can go to crowworthy.com, click shop, and all the stuff pops up right there, including this, which is champion / Around the 412.
But there's I didn't get mine yet.
Short sleeve tees, different types of hoodies as well. There's a beanie on there. So and hopefully more to come. But right now I think that we got a solid selection to start out with. So pretty excited about it, and shout out to the guys at Crowworthy for making it happen.
Yeah, it looks dope. I wish I had mine, but I'm a bigger set guy, so I had to wait a little longer.
Yeah, well, anyway, I'm excited to talk about the Steelers. Of course, again, this is the Around the 412 Steelers show, but I do want to mention that tomorrow, and I'm pulling triple duty this week as well. This is show 2 for me. Tomorrow, we're going to be joined by former Pirates shortstop Jack Wilson. So if you grew up watching those Pirates teams of the early 2000s, the infamous early 2000s Pirates, he was one of the more notable players, along with Jason Bay, Freddie Sanchez, depending on how old you are, maybe Brian Giles a little bit before that. So yeah, excited to chop it up with Jack Wilson tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that because, as a Pirate fan growing up and as a kid in our era, he was one of the only, like you said, bright spots on those teams. So I'm excited to talk about the combo between him and Freddie Sanchez.
Yeah, well, we got to talk about the Steelers, but before that, now that we're talking about this, I just wanted to bring up, if he were playing like in today's age and still as good as he was defensively back then now, like as analytically driven as, the baseball community is now, he would be, considered one of the better shortstops in baseball, I think.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah, he was insanely good defensively for the Pirates back then on such bad teams. It's a shame we had so many good individual players, just the teams in general, they were terrible. But yeah, let's talk football. And the first thing I wanted, before we talk about the Steelers, I just want to talk about something that we've seen today on Twitter. What in God's green earth was Justin Herbert thinking about cutting that flow?
I don't know. You and I got a firsthand look. I remember at the Senior Bowl, like when I saw where his podium was going to be, I just posted up there and was going to wait until he came.
Yeah, I've got the interview on my phone. I put my phone on
like some of the best flow that I've seen in person, and he hadn't had his haircut since 2018, before today or yesterday, whenever it was that their strength and conditioning coach cut it. But yeah, he looks terrible. Like I don't know how else to say it. Like, the long hair was hiding a lot of flaws that he has, and now.
With the acne, he low-key looks like a meth addict. That's what I think of. He looks.
I just think he looks super young.
He does. He looks like a 14-year-old, 15-year-old starting for the Chargers, but he looks terrible and
playing very well.
Yeah, he is playing very well. I wonder if this is like Samson in the Bible. I wonder if this is going to affect him. You cut his hair. I wonder if he just loses all his strength, loses all his.
Maybe it was because they haven't been winning games though. He decided to do it. Like he was playing well, but
yeah, that's true.
So now,
and dude, the stat that I saw this week that there's only 3 teams that have not lost a game by more than a single score.
Yeah,
and they're one of them. It's the Steelers, the Chiefs, and the Chargers. Chargers are 2-7. That must be so miserable as a fan for that fan base.
It is. I'm sure it is. But okay, we're going to talk about the Steelers. But first things first, I got to tell you about one of our sponsors, which is Manscaped. So football is here. That means it's time to throw on your team's colors and make sure you don't fumble your grooming below the waist. Our partners at Manscaped are here to save your boys from a TJ Watt hit so you can stay clean and take care of yourself where it matters most. I talk about it every week, but I have pretty much all of the products they have to offer. Tyler has a lot of the products as well, so we can tell you firsthand how awesome these things are, including the brand new Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer. They spent 18 months perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created and just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. It's simply the best hygiene tool for the modern man. Because of the ceramic blade and skin-safe technology, your snags will be reduced. Their Perfect Package 3.0 comes with the new and improved Lawnmower, which is waterproof. It's a cordless body hair trimmer, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag for when we are finally done with this quarantining process. The Perfect Package 3.0 also comes with the Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver, otherwise known as the deodorant and the toner, which I talk about all the time on here. All these other products and more can be found at manscaped.com. And when you put them in your cart and go to checkout, use the code 412. That's going to save you 20% off. Plus, you will get free shipping on those products. Again, that's code 412 at checkout for 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com.
Can't say enough about those products. They're amazing.
I know. I'm just, I honestly, I think I'm going to have to re-up here soon. I'm running low on the body wash. So, and that's probably I don't want to, pick favorites here. I hope none of the products are listening, but that might be my favorite of the products.
I mean, it is good. I will say the Crop Preserver is probably still my favorite. Maybe a little TMI for some of you, but I don't care. It just feels amazing and it's very refreshing.
The one that I use the least is probably the foot spray that I have, but
maybe that's my favorite because my feet suck. I mean, they smell terrible. I say that all the time on the show, talking about Manscaped and their foot duster. My feet need it terribly, and it helps a ton.
All right, well, there we have it, folks. But yeah, I get all of them anyway. So let's talk about the Steelers now. They're 9-0, only undefeated team in football. Coming off a win against the Cincinnati Bengals, where we said, I picking the game, we still thought that they would win, but we thought it was going to be their toughest test between the Cowboys, Cincinnati, Jacksonville. And the Steelers win this game handily, never in doubt at any point during the game. At least in my opinion, I think everybody would agree with that. Ben Roethlisberger's first half, in my opinion, was his best half of football that we've seen this year. The defense was good throughout it. Really just a performance where we could just kind of sit back and enjoy the game, not on the edge of our seats, which, we were hoping for against the Cowboys as well, but that didn't happen, obviously. So it was nice following that game against the Cowboys to just be able to sit back and relax, made Joe Burrow uncomfortable, especially in the second half, really started to get after him. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if there were really any blemishes in this game, except for the fact that, once again, we still aren't able to run the ball. And
it's terrible.
The question that I'll pose is, do we have to be able to run the ball?
Yes and no. I think against bad teams, we don't have to. Or let me rephrase. Against bad defenses, we don't have to be able to run the ball because Ben is able to just tactfully work the field and stuff that you don't need to open up the game any more than you need to with the run game. However, if you play a team with a good defense, no, it didn't really work this way for the Ravens. I thought they were going to be able to run on the Ravens more so than they did. However, I just feel like teams with good defenses are harder to play against if you cannot move the ball on the ground, because they will learn quickly. If you can't run on us, then we're just going to put our nickel and dime packages out there the entire time, because what's the use of playing base defense whenever you don't have to worry about the run game? And I don't know whether you think that it is a offensive line thing, or if it's on the running backs thing, or if it's just a combination of both. But something is wrong, and I'm not really sure where to point the finger.
I don't think that you can point it solely at, James Conner and the running game, or the running backs, I should say, or you can point the finger solely at the offensive line. I think it's a combination. But here's the thing that I'll say about the offensive line. I'm not impressed with that unit. I think that, they're not, Ben isn't taking sacks, and that's great. They're keeping Ben upright. But I think that that's more of an attribute to how quickly he's getting the ball out of his hands. And I think that it's also why you're not seeing him take sacks, but you're seeing so many balls get batted at the line of scrimmage. And that's kind of, the reason. Like, I would rather have that happen than him take hits. So whatever. I mean, if that's, the trade-off there, fine, so be it. But I have not been impressed with this offensive line for the most part. And I almost wonder, and I know that we've been pounding the table, so call us biased if you want. I almost wonder when he comes back, of course, off the COVID list, if this team would benefit from the insertion of Kevin Dotson back into the lineup. And, we know how good he's been in pass protection. He hasn't allowed a sack at the guard position when he's played, but also his work as a pulling guard. And David DeCastro has taken, and I'm not saying for Dotson to start instead of DeCastro, but DeCastro has taken a step back this year, at least in that aspect. He's still very good in pass protection, everything. But as a pulling guard, I don't know if it's due to injury. I think that it probably would be. I don't think he's, on the decline of his career, or at least I hope not. But I think that the insertion of Kevin Dotson into this lineup, and I like Matt Filer and everything, but that's, the guy that would probably be coming out, and makes the most sense to. I wonder if that and alone, just that one move, could be a huge difference towards elevating the run production.
I agree with you. Dotson's a beast. We've seen it before in the games that he's gone in. He's been good in the pass and run blocking. So I agree. I think they should put him in there. We've been pounding the table for him to start on the show really since before the season. Honestly, we were discussing whether he should be getting a spot in the summer for the starting job, and we was shown very quickly that he could perform that way. And I think another thing that is hindering this run game is the inconsistent or questionable play calling that we see week to week with the run game. Why are they trying to run outside on all these teams when it's clearly has been working all season? I will never understand why, if a certain play doesn't work multiple times in a game, you continue to call it. I mean, that goes back to when I played in high school. That wouldn't happen. If plays are not working, you do not continue to run them. You try to figure out what works. And if the only type of running that has been working for this team has been between the tackles, up, down, or downfield, I don't know why they keep going east to west, because it's not working for this team.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too, is all we've seen a good portion of the runs the last 3 weeks when we've seen the run game not do much of anything have been out of shotgun, where James Conner's either lined up on the left or right, and they're asking him to go either left or the opposite direction. So he's not running north. He's going side to side, and it hasn't worked. Like you said, they need to be running between the tackles if they're going to run at all. But to answer the question that I posed to you, my response would be, again, I kind of brought this up before, is that it's situational. If a team's going to give you everything that you could possibly want through the air, there's no need to have the run game. But there are going to be situations where you're going to need that to take the load off a little bit of Ben and be able to have some balance. But I don't think that they need to force balance. And that's what I'm kind of worried about to a degree, based off Mike Tomlin's comments in Tomlin Tuesday yesterday. Making the running game a point of emphasis this week in practice, wanting it improved, everything like that. But let's be honest. I mean, it's going to be Ben. Whatever Ben wants to have happen on Sunday, it's going to happen. So, hopefully those guys they continue to go on all cylinders, and the receivers continue to just eat in the short to intermediate routes. We saw him connect with Deontay Johnson on a deep ball, which was nice to see. Hopefully we can mix that in a little bit, because that hasn't been a huge part of this offense, and I don't think it needs to be, but every once in a while it would be nice to see. But yeah, to answer my own question that I posed to you, I don't think that it is necessary on a week-to-week basis. Just take what the defense can give you. But long term, I think that you are going to need the run game to give you more than what they have.
Yeah, and since we're talking about this run game, it's kind of opened my eyes. A few weeks ago, we were talking about the draft a little bit on this show, this upcoming one, and what positions the Steelers could be looking at. And I really think that the positions we brought up were corner, tackle. We even brought up running back. But I think the main emphasis, at least for me right now, would be tackle. Watching this running game and struggling how it is, you're going to want to replace Villanueva. Maybe Chooks can move over and you draft someone to play right tackle, or you draft someone to play left tackle immediately. I have no idea. But it looks like with Hayden and Nelson, the way they've been playing, which that one tweet by, I don't even know what his name was, saying that Hayden and Nelson have been the worst players. Get out of here. Especially Hayden. I mean, he's arguably the best, like one of the best. So get that crap out of here. But yeah, my emphasis would probably be on tackle for this upcoming drafts as of right now.
Yeah, and I mean, we know a lot of things can change, everything like that, but you look at the 2021 outlook as is right now. We don't want to look ahead because the goal is winning the Super Bowl this year, but we know, Joe Hayden, who we just talked about, he's not getting any younger, and him and Nelson are going to be on the last year of their deals next year as well. Cam Sutton and Mike Hilton, both free agents after this year. They probably have to make a call on one of those guys, retaining one of them. Villanueva, Filer, both free agents. So you talked about, potentially sliding Chooks over. I think that makes the most sense if they were to go tackle in next year's draft, just because asking a guy to come in and play left tackle, you can argue second or third most important position in football. That's a tall ask. I mean, I know we're seeing Jedrick Wills do it for the Browns. We're seeing Mekhi Becton do it for the Jets. But I think it's a situation like Tampa where they're having Wirfs start out on the right side. That makes a lot more sense. I think that's a much, I don't want to say easier ask. Obviously, he's still put right into a starting position, but that not blocking Ben's blind side would be a much easier than playing left tackle task. So yeah, I think that I'm probably on board with you. You mentioned we threw in running back. That would be such a luxury pick for them. That's the kind of situation that I think, like, if they can get most of their free agents to come back on, like hometown discounts, that they can make. But I don't see that really happening. Of course, that would be excluding James Conner being coming back on a hometown discount. Pretty much everybody else. Say they bring back Villanueva and Filer, and they still have the same offensive line depth. They're able to bring back. I don't see a way that Sutton and Hilton are both here. Unfortunately, I hate to say that on here. We're going to talk about Cam Sutton in a little bit. I don't see a way they're both back, but say that they were to, and it's just a complete luxury pick, then like a guy like Travis Etienne could make sense. But I think looking at it right now, offensive line makes the absolute most sense with the way that the run game is struggling. And again, I don't think that they've necessarily been great in pass protection. I just think that Ben's getting the ball at his hands so quick.
I agree with you. And speaking of Villanueva, even if it was a hometown discount, I just feel like that's a player that they're probably not going to bring back no matter what the price is. And I keep forgetting that we'll have Zach Banner. And we haven't seen him be able to start because he got injured in that first game, which is a shame. But, I mean, that's something to keep in the back of my head, that we also have him. Looking forward to that when he's able to come back. So, I mean, there's a lot going into this year's draft, but there's a lot of season left before that happens.
There is, but we know that this previous game, for his performance, Ben Roethlisberger wins Offensive Player of the Week for Week 10. Not bad for a guy that is currently holding his team back from being the best team in football. I mean, he wins Offensive Player of the Week. He also won FedEx Air Player of the Week. So phenomenal game. Again, I mentioned I thought his first half was the best half of football that we've seen him play this year. And that was, including a couple of drops that receivers had. He could have had a much bigger half. I don't know. I'm really encouraged by what I saw. I know it was Cincinnati, but there was more zip on his ball. I don't know if it was just because he really wasn't throwing it all in practice last week or what it was, but we talked about it on here. Like, it was kind of funny, but we were looking at it as like somewhat of a blessing in disguise, as long as he actually weren't positive, being able to sit and not practice for the entire week, just take the week off and rest. I mean, it did wonders, obviously phenomenal on Sunday. So I don't know where you stand on this, but I'm starting to think that it's not outlandish for Ben to be in the MVP conversation. Now, I will say, like, he wouldn't be my vote right now if I were to have one, but I don't think it's so ridiculous to have his name around the guys that are in that MVP talk.
I don't either. I think he would be top 5 or 6 for me. I don't think he would crack top 3 right now, but I don't think you're insane for saying that whatsoever. I don't get the notion that Ben's playing bad or holding this team back. Where does anybody see that whatsoever? Without him, this team is not 9-0. There's no chance of that. So I just don't understand why anyone would think that. I mean, sure, he's not airing it out like he used to, but that's because he doesn't have to. And I don't see why people don't understand that yet. He's not the same old Ben Roethlisberger that he has to throw the deep ball down the field every single time to AB. Like, he has all these wide receivers that he's spreading the ball to amazingly. I mean, looking at the yards that all these receivers are getting and the receptions, targets, I don't think we've ever seen Ben spread the ball around this well before, ever. We've always had one or two guys that have gotten the majority of the targets and the catches and the yards, and everyone else was like such a far step behind those one or two guys. This year they've got 5 guys within 300 yards of each other, and I know 300 yards is a good amount, but I mean, still, that's a small gap.
300 yards is probably in past years. 300 yards is probably what their wide receiver 3 finishes the year with.
Exactly. I mean, you look so far this year. Juju's 516, Claypool 500, Deontay Johnson 426, Ebron 323, James Washington 232. That is awesome to see. And we talked about it before on the show. The Steelers do not have a quote unquote number 1 wide receiver, and there's no problem with that. I think it's just helping Ben even more with the style of play that he's had, that he's got all these complementary pieces that they can work through without having that number 1 guy. And I just don't see how people cannot appreciate that. And like you said, he should be in the conversation for the MVP. Maybe not at the top, but definitely in the conversation.
Yeah, so here's my thing on why I don't think it's outlandish and why I would have him just inside my top 5 or just outside of my top 5 if I had a vote for MVP. As far as I'm concerned, MVP stands for most valuable player, not best player in the league. If that's what they want it to be, they need to change the name of the award. Because if you're talking about most valuable to their team, there are very few that are more valuable to their team than Ben Roethlisberger is to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They won their 9th game on Sunday. Last year, they won 8 games in the entire season. What has changed, really, from last year to this year? Of course, you have the addition of Chase Claypool. He's been fantastic. You've had the addition of Eric Ebron. He's been fantastic. You've lost Javon Hargrave on the defensive side, but Tyson Alualu has been fantastic. You've seen a couple guys take, a leap. I still don't think the defense is as good this year as they were last year. You can call me crazy if you want. I think that the defense was a little bit better last year. So what has really changed other than the switch from either Mason Rudolph or Duck Hodges to Ben Roethlisberger? And the answer there is not much. And yet here we are where they already have one more win than they did all of last year. Like you mentioned, Ben Roethlisberger has created an offensive system for this team where any given week, it can be any given guy that is the number 1 that week. They don't have a true number 1. They have a bunch of really good guys. There's no alpha, and there doesn't need to be. There's not a personality in the room demanding to be that alpha. And that's why this team is so good. Mike Tomlin should be the head coach of the year. I don't know how anybody else could unseat him from that. All credit to Brian Flores as well in Miami for what he's doing. But between Ben Roethlisberger and Mike Tomlin, what he's done coaching, I mean, there aren't 2 more valuable people to what their franchise is doing this year. So I think that Ben Roethlisberger should be in the MVP consideration. However, if I had a vote, we were just talking about this, and it's changed a lot because obviously Russell Wilson, his last few weeks have not warranted him being MVP. Right now, for me, it might be Kyler Murray.
He's playing out of his mind, especially that play on Sunday. Like, I audibly gasped watching that, or not audibly. I would say I opened my mouth. I didn't audibly gasp, but my jaw dropped watching that play. I love Kyler Murray for sure. And yeah, I feel like what's your top 3? Would it be Kyler, Mahomes, and
Aaron
Wilson?
Rodgers.
Oh, Aaron Rodgers. Oh yeah. I forgot about him.
I think for me right now, and this this has changed a little bit, is Kyler, Rodgers, Mahomes. The problem, and I really like. I'd rather have a Mount Rushmore like with 4 than 3, because if Seattle makes the playoffs this year, which they're getting dangerously close to like the point where they're not going to be in a playoff spot with how bad their defense is. If they were to make the playoffs this year with how bad that defense is, I mean, Russ has to be a consideration just for that. If you take an all-time bad defense to the playoffs, I mean, Russ has to be in consideration for it.
Well, that's why Russ would still be in my top 3. Just because you look at him, I'm looking at his stats compared to Mahomes, for example. He has a higher completion percentage, he has a higher yard total, and he has more touchdowns. He's leading the lead in touchdowns, actually. So,
and their defense is worse.
Yeah, and the defense is not just worse, like it is terrible.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird too. I was talking about, how Steelers defense pretty much, the same this year. Kansas City finished last year a little bit on the wrong end of being a middle of the pack defense. They were like 18th and 19th pretty much in every category. Yet they win the Super Bowl last year. This year, they're in the top 10 in defensive efficiency and most defensive metrics. So they're a much improved defense. That's why, honestly, like Kansas City would be the only team where I'm okay with people have like Kansas City being ranked higher than the Steelers in power rankings. They're the only team that I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, even if the defense wasn't as good as it's been this year, I feel like I would still be okay with it just because of that high power offense.
It's
With
funny
Mahomes and his
we
weapons.
just got a comment in here that said, y'all seen the PFF Steelers rank LMAO? Yeah, we commented on that. I said that does 1, 2, and 3 stand for the number of losses by each team? How do the Ravens, who have 3 losses, come in at number 3? One of those losses to the team that they're right in front of, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Doesn't make sense. And their most recent loss to the Patriots, which to me, even though they beat the Ravens, the Patriots are still not that good of a team. So I don't understand how they're ahead of the Steelers.
And you know what? For the Steelers and for Ben, not to cut you off, but I want to say it because
you're fine.
I feel like I would have forgotten had I not said it. For Ben and for the Steelers, both, him individually and as the team, the Jaguars, they could beat the brakes off the Jaguars. Ben could put up huge numbers. Nobody's going to care. That Thursday night game on Thanksgiving against the Ravens, that's where they're going to have to earn respect. You sweep the Ravens in prime time on Thanksgiving, and Ben's going to have another huge game. I think at that point, hopefully, at least some people, some talking heads in the national media, start to give not only this team its due credit as at that time they'd be 11-0, but also Ben Roethlisberger for being at least in the mix in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, I never understand the notion of they haven't beat anybody, and whenever people want to talk about the record, again, the record of the teams that they played, everyone wants to leave out the Titans and the Ravens and then just include the bad teams. But
I mean, the Browns have the same record as the Ravens now. So
exactly. And it's not the Steelers' fault that these teams keep losing. Like teams that are supposed to be better than they have been. I mean, freaking Colin Cowherd said this, the Ravens are going to go 16-0. They've lost 3 games already. I don't get what the Steelers can do. I mean, I do. I agree with you that beating the Ravens on Thanksgiving, people will probably finally say, okay, this team's for real. They're not the worst 9-0 team I've ever seen. I also don't understand that. They're 9-0. They're the first 9-0 team since 2015. They're only like the 6th or 7th in the past like 15 years. How is that a bad thing?
Yeah, you don't. Not every season does a team get to the point where they're even 9-0 at any point. Every team starts the season 0-0, and to get to 9-0, I don't care who they've played, regardless of if they played the Jets 9 times. All right, that might be a stretch. That might be a stretch, but regardless of who they've played, it's impressive because no team, you don't see every single year a team get to this point. And I'm sure in the past, even just going back to last year, there was a team that 9 games into their season had a worse strength of schedule than the Steelers do this year.
Probably. I bet there is. And so my last point on Ben being in the MVP conversation, to relate it to another sport that we talk about, hockey, and another person that we love in another team, Sidney Crosby and the Penguins. For the past couple of years, I've made cases, especially 2 years ago, I made a case where Sidney Crosby should have been the MVP of the league. And it's because you take him off of the Penguins are a terrible team in the 2018-19 season. And it's not even close. He literally drugged them to the playoffs. And to relate it to this year's Steelers, I'm looking at the games that the Steelers have played right now. And I'm looking at the scores, and I remember how the games have played out. If you take Ben off of this team, I think you could realistically say that the Steelers could be 2-7 right now for how some of these games have played. And I know that's crazy to some people, but looking at the way the Giants game played out, looking at the way the Broncos game played out, how the scores are closer than they should have been. If Ben's not in that game, I don't trust Mason Rudolph or Josh Dobbs to win that game for us.
And I think that speaks to the point that I made where, like, this is still, a very good defense, one of the best in the NFL, but I don't think that they're as good as last year. And last year's defense was the only reason that they were 8-8. So I agree. I don't think that they'd be sniffing 500 without Ben this year if they had, or if they had a similar quarterback situation where, yeah, maybe it is Dobbs instead of Mason Rudolph. I don't think that makes a difference though to the record.
Yeah, put some respect on his name.
And I get it. You can say that with a lot of most teams lose their starting quarterback. That's going to end their season. But going from we're looking at it, we have obviously the recency bias. Just looking at it from last year to this year and how much of a difference it's made. I mean, we talked. Well, I remember I made the case last year that Ben should win MVP while he's not playing because of how bad the Steelers' offense was without him. So, there's a couple of guys that I want to talk about in the secondary to kind of wrap this up before we move on to our 3 bets of the week. We are switching up the betting show a little bit. Cam Sutton and Terrell Edmonds. So Cam Sutton finally playing over 50% of the snaps. I'm sorry, he played over 50% of the snaps. Finally playing over 80% of the snaps on Sunday, playing I think like 53. Obviously, no Mike Hilton. That's going to make a difference. But, and I know I'm asking you a lot of questions on this episode, which is kind of abnormal to it.
It's all right.
How important is Cam Sutton to this defense?
I think it's huge. He is not only a coverage presence, but I feel like he's a physical presence in that secondary. I mean, he's got 3 forced fumbles on the year. I feel like this guy has improved more and more as he's gotten to play more. And at the rate that he's going to be a very good player in this league. So I think that he is a huge part of this defense. Both guys you said this year, him and Terrell Edmonds, not to go away from Sutton, but Terrell Edmonds has shown a lot of people. I don't necessarily think he still would warrant a first-round pick, but he's a lot better this year and a lot closer to what we thought we were getting compared to previous years. He still doesn't have the ball skills to make plays on the ball, but his coverage has been better. He's a physical presence, and he's great up on the line of scrimmage. So both those guys, they've been ecstatic this year.
Yeah, I think the thing with Cam Sutton is he's not like he's listed as a cornerback, but I just wouldn't put a position on him. I just think he's the most versatile piece that we have in that defense.
He's more like a rover, I would say, in that secondary.
He can play corner, he can play safety, kind of in a hybrid like the linebacker role at times as well. He'll cover tight ends, he'll cover teams' best receivers, he'll cover guys in the slot. He can kind of, do it all. And he's so smart. And yeah, we're seeing now just this knack that all of a sudden he has for being able to rip the ball out too. So I am curious as to how not only the Steelers would value him, but also how other teams are going to value him should he hit the open market. And I really don't want to lose him. And I don't want to lose Mike Hilton either. But man, if I had to make a call between those two, I'm probably leaning Cam Sutton right now. And I think it's not only just because I think that he probably would cost a little bit less just because Hilton has a larger body of work. I just think Cam Sutton can do more for this defense.
No, I agree with you. We know what Mike Hilton is, and he's very good at it. But like you said, Cam Sutton is probably the most versatile player in that secondary. And he's definitely proving why he should earn a contract with the Steelers. And not that they can't afford both, but if you have to pick one, I tend to agree with you. I think I'd pick Cam Sutton.
Yeah, and again, it's not a knock on Mike Hilton at all. He's phenomenal, and I'd love to be able to keep both of them, and hopefully that is the case, and this becomes a moot point. But as of right now, we know where the cap is expected to be. They say no lower than 175. We know that the Steelers are always pressed up against the cap. I think that we need Ben to sign, like a 1-year extension to lower his number next year from that 40 million, but we'll see. You're still going to have guys like Juju, who we'd love to see the team bring back. Maybe they do an extension with TJ and they somehow make it next year. Right now he's slated to make a guaranteed $10 million on his 5th-year option. But, they can maybe work around with that and give him a larger signing bonus and lower his total number next year or something. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they maneuver around it. They're the best team or amongst the best at doing this. So it'll be interesting to see. We did have somebody say in the comments, Steelers opponent's record this year, 33, 47, and 2. The Chiefs opponent's record is 33 and 50.
You're not going to hear anybody talking about that, though.
Nope. It's because they're not the ones that are undefeated.
Even if they were undefeated, I feel like since they're the Super Bowl champs, they have Patrick Mahomes, who, he is who he is. I still feel like a lot of people would not be talking the way about them they are about the Steelers. And I just think that's just disrespect on the Steelers' part.
Yeah. No, I mean, I 100% agree. I don't think that people would be talking about it the same way. You know what? A lot of it has to do not only just towards, the Steelers, but Ben individually. Just people have, this preconceived idea of him because of his past and stuff and what they think they know about him. So they'll never be able to give him credit, even for, not related to that. Just they can't even relate it to football. They'll never give him credit for anything that he does. So
yeah, I think I can think of a few. By the way, fun fact: Cam Sutton is 1 day older than me. Exactly.
wow.
Our lives are in different directions.
So also Terrell Edmonds, who I said I wanted to bring up, you kind of talked about him a little bit too. I think that we are seeing him kind of find his footing in the NFL, find his game, figuring out what he's really good at. It is nice to see him. You mentioned the ball skills. I don't think that those are ever just going to pop up out of nowhere. I don't think all of a sudden he's going to be like a turnover machine, but it's nice to see him get around the ball more. I mean, he already has set his career high in pass breakups, pass deflections this year, or pass defenses this year. So in around the line of scrimmage, we know he's always been a pretty short tackler. He's good there. He's going to, probably lead the team in total tackles. So yeah, I think that he's just starting to really find his game. And to your point about the first round pick thing, I think I might have brought this up already, but I'll say it again, just, if we have a new listener, a new watch or something like that. Somebody told me before, if teams, especially when you get like late in the first, where, we were with Edmonds 28th overall, if you feel like a guy is worth taking on day 2, take him in day 1, because you get that 5th-year option. If you feel like they're going to get better, in year 3, in year 4, take him on day 1 if you're willing to take him on day 2, because then you get that extra year of control on his contract.
That is a good point. Which, I mean, at this point, you think the Steelers are picking that up?
I don't know what it's going to be worth. I guess it would probably be pretty similar to TJ's, right? Because TJ was 30th overall. So yeah, I guess it'd be a little bit more than 10 million.
Yeah, and it's not performance based. It's just like draft slot, right?
Yeah. So, man, that's tough. They'd probably, if the idea is to keep him around, they'll probably want to. I know that they don't typically do this. They'll probably want to work out a deal with him beforehand, because I don't see them wanting to pay him $10 million.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it either.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, granted, we don't know what the what the cap situation will look like at that point anyway, but I just think that I think that he's probably, I don't want to put a number on him. I don't know. I'd have to look around the league and see what guys his position are making, but I would guess, like $6 to $8 million a year would be like the max that he'd be worth.
Yeah. That sounds about right. I'd be willing to pay that, I guess. But one guy, just before we move on, that we've talked about multiple times on the show, bringing back, I do not want Juju to go anywhere. I know we questioned it, whether they think that we think they will or will not sign him. Just after this year and the way he's performed and the way we've talked about, he's taken on this mold, kind of like Hines Ward has or did. I do not want him to play for any other team ever in his career.
He is. He's the modern day Steelers Hines Ward. Granted, I think Hines Ward, like, definitely in his time here was the number 1 wide receiver, but I think that there wasn't as much talent in the receiver room at that time. Obviously, we saw Santonio come in after, kind of towards the end of Hines' career. But now with like everybody that's in the receiver room, they're so good, they're so deep. But when you just look at the type of receiver that Hines Ward was and the type of receiver that Juju is, there's a lot of similarities there. The grinded out yards, the grittiness. Obviously I don't think Hines Ward would have been making TikToks or anything like that, but I mean, it's fun. I don't have any problem with it. He enjoys life, and how can you hate on a guy for doing that? So, but
especially when that guy has the respect of his teammates and his coaches, like all of his peers, you never hear anything like what we hear from the Pittsburgh or other media that we do from either other players, coaches, anything like that. You never hear a peep of that. So I just don't see how anybody can hate on this guy whatsoever. He obviously puts in the work. He's a leader in that team. I mean, at the young age of 23, he's about to turn 24 in a few days. He is still the leader of that team in the receiver room. And he's he is one of the leaders of the team. for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the leader of a position group, especially the receivers, I think that you are a leader on the team. He's not a team captain, but I think that he's a guy that they like has a voice in that room.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell that obviously Ben has been spreading the ball out for sure. But when it comes to those critical third downs, critical yards that we need, he's looking towards Juju's way. And I think that says a lot about him.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, hopefully he doesn't go anywhere. He's another guy. We talked about all the guys that are due new contracts after we win our 7th Super Bowl, and he'll be one of them. So, but yeah, moving along, it is just going to be the two of us for our NFL betting segment. We are going to kind of shorten it up. So we just each picked 3 bets that we would be betting on. We really like the lines on, whatever it might be. So I will start, and the 3 that I really like are going to be in the Tennessee-Baltimore game, the Miami-Denver game, and the Green Bay-Indianapolis game. So I went Tennessee +6 at -110 here. I went Miami -3.5 against Denver at -104 odds. And then I went Green Bay money line against Indianapolis because you can get that at +100. They're the underdogs in that game. Granted, it's in Indianapolis, but I was very surprised to see that they were favored over the Packers there. So a $20 bet on that could net you $129.79. That 3-game parlay.
Oh shoot, I didn't even do that. Let me do that real quick.
No, I mean I didn't say that you had to. I was just curious what it would do. So anyway, again, that's Tennessee +6 over Baltimore. Now, I will say, speaking on that game, I don't think Tennessee wins it. I think Baltimore wins that game, but I think the way those two teams are built, I mean, we saw what Derrick Henry did to them in the playoffs last year. I think Tennessee's a team that is perfectly built to compete with Baltimore. I think that, and those are two teams that are fighting for that last playoff spot right now. I think Baltimore wins the game, but I think it's by about a field goal. So again, I have that. Miami, I think they cover against Denver. We know Drew Lock's hurt right now. I'm not sure he plays in this game, and I really like what I've seen from Miami. They've been the best defense in football the past month. And obviously, Tua seems to be getting a little bit better each week. And then Green Bay money line against Indianapolis. I was surprised to see them as the underdogs at +100. I couldn't not pick that.
Sounds good. All right, so mine, we have one game the same. I'll start with that one.
Okay.
I am picking the Dolphins to cover against the Broncos. It's the same reasons as you. Dolphins has looked really good the past month. Tua is improving. Defense is great. Denver's not good. Drew Lock is out. I mean, he's not even that good anyway. He threw 3 picks.
Did they roll him out already?
I mean, I'm going based off what he's probably not going to play. I mean, I would guess he's not going to play. But even if he did, he threw 3 picks on Sunday. He's not any good. So, I mean, he's definitely a disappointment for what they thought he was going to be. But, yeah, I'm picking the Dolphins to cover.
Swag.
Yeah, love the swag. The next game, I checked the weather this time. And in Cleveland, it is projected to rain with showers. At least right now, there's like 70% chance. So I'm gonna take the over on that chance there, and I'm gonna say the Browns and the Eagles go under 47.
Okay.
And I am going to take the Bengals money line against the Washington football team, and you get that at +102.
That was another one that I looked at. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think Washington not that good, although Alex Smith did impress me
He
a
like
little
400
bit.
yards in that game against Detroit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first start back, you might as well just sling it. But I think the Bengals, majority of the games, obviously not Sunday, but majority of the games, they've been in the games right to the bitter end. I think they'll pull out this one, take the money line 102. You bet $20 on that one, and you will net $131.29.
Yeah, it's a little bit more than mine.
Yeah, and so we found out this week that player props are not shown up early before the games. But I said I'm going to throw in a player prop. I don't even know what the number is. I'm assuming it'll be probably around, I would say around the 270, 280 mark, possibly. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm taking the over on Jameis Winston passing yards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because, listen, I had him last year in fantasy. The dude threw a ton, and I get is on a different team. It's his first week starting with the Saints. However, I think Sean Payton will trust him enough to be able to throw the ball. He got his eyes fixed, and I think that against Atlanta, which at least fantasy-wise is the number one worst passing defense, I think that he's going to be able to chuck it around, and I'm going to take whatever it is over his passing yards.
Well, here to your point, I believe also because it is going to be his first start of the season on a new team. I think that player prop also, maybe them thinking we could see some Taysom Hill mixed in there too. I think that his passing yards probably relatively low. So I would definitely be watching that as well because I don't think that it'd be, much over like 220 because of those factors.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think that the people asking whether or not Taysom Hill should have been the guy, he shouldn't have. I mean, and this is coming from the BYU fan. Okay. He shouldn't have. He plays a perfect role in what he does right now. Do the special teams, get in there on the passing game, running game, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But
I don't know that he should have as many rushing attempts as Alvin Kamara again, though. But
yeah, I mean, whatever works, I guess. But yeah, I think that they should keep him in his role. And I think people don't understand that enough, that Taysom is not there to be the sole backup for that team. Taysom is there as a luxury for the I'll use this phrase, freak athlete that he is. I mean, he plays the quarterback position. He's the size of a middle linebacker, and he runs a 4.3. I mean, what combination do you get that? So I just think he's there to play that gadget role, and they have a backup that they are willing to sit behind, and that way they have the luxury of playing Taysom, which is they had Teddy Bridgewater last year, they got Jameis Winston this year. So I just think Jameis Winston is going to sling it like he did last year. Maybe he'll throw a lot of picks. I don't care as long as the passing yards go over. I don't even know what the number is, but
yeah. And a guy that I've always been going over has been Justin Herbert's passing yards. They've been pretty consistently been around like 265, and he's throwing for over that like every single week. But after this haircut, I don't know.
Dude, I don't know about that one. He's looking pretty rough. We talked about it earlier in the show. Not a good look for good old Justin there.
They haven't. So even for the Thursday night game, there's some player props up, but they update them on Thursday and typically put up more. The one that I would be looking at would be Kyler Murray's passing plus rushing, whatever that might sit at. Seattle, historically bad defense. So I think whatever you can get Kyler Murray at, I would be doing it. Also, DeAndre Hopkins receptions. I assume it's probably at about 4.5 or 5.5. I would go the over on that as well.
Yeah, Kyler Murray rushing yards alone is 58.5. I feel like every game he's probably going to get around 60 yards at least, if not a little bit more. So every time Arizona plays, I'm tempted to just take a same game parlay and include his rushing yards.
Are they the most fun team to watch right now?
Offensively, yeah. I mean, I love Kyler Murray. You added DeAndre Hopkins. They definitely, yeah, I would say they're the most fun team.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I've been looking at the past few weeks. Like last week, the most intriguing game to me was them versus Buffalo. I was really interested in their game versus Seattle. Now they play Seattle again on Thursday Night Football and tomorrow on Thursday Night Football, and I'm really looking forward to that game. So it just seems like every week I'm like, oh, I'm really interested in this game. And the common factor there is it's Kyler Murray and the Cardinals playing.
Yeah, and also speaking of this game, since it's got both quarterbacks, I'm about to mention something. So I saw a clip of Colin Cowherd talking this week of, and we've said a lot of bad things that he said about the Steelers and questionable calls, but something that I tend to agree with is that he talked about how Kyler Murray is a different runner, and because he drew comparisons to Russell Wilson with the size and being mobile, but he said the difference is Russell Wilson will be mobile to create space and basically defend himself from getting sacked, but he's not looking to attack all the time for the mobility. He said Kyler, complete opposite. He's just looking to tear you up with his legs. And I feel like that is very evident every single time you watch him play.
Yeah, I think with Russell, when he escapes the pocket, even when as he starts running forward, his eyes are still down the field looking to see if there's somebody he can pass to. I feel like Kyler, goes through his, not to say he's, a one-read quarterback or anything like that. He goes through his progressions. If something's not there, he takes off running and stops looking for a receiver.
Hey, I mean, with DeAndre Hopkins, he might as well be a one-read quarterback. Oh, he's not open? All right, I'm going to run.
Although, yeah, Christian Kirk's starting to come on a little bit too there. It seems like Larry Fitzgerald's like firmly the number 3 guy there now, which, I mean, we know he's getting late in his career. At this point, it's just about trying to get him a ring, so.
trade him to the Steelers.
I mean, honestly, we talked about how the NFC, there seems to be a new best team in the NFC like every single week. The Cardinals, if they come out on Thursday Night Football, beat the Seahawks, I think that they're right in the mix, especially with we'll see how the Saints look with Jameis, but they're going to be right in the mix there. The Rams, I guess, in that same division as the Cardinals, they just beat the Seahawks. They're at least decent on both sides of the football. They're probably the most complete team in the NFC West. But if Arizona can keep them under 30, we know that their offense can put up over 30. So I don't know. Arizona to me is kind of in that mix now for best team in the NFC.
Yeah, the NFC, I feel like I don't know if all these teams are good or if there's just a lot of mediocrity throughout the NFC. It's just very questionable week to week because literally past 3 weeks, we've said different teams are the best teams in the NFC.
Tampa, Seattle.
But yeah,
I thought at one point Green Bay before that lost Tampa.
The Saints, and now Drew Brees is hurt. But yeah, so I had a tweet on Sunday whenever Kyler Murray threw that Hail Mary. Imagine if Kyler Murray was going into like low A ball this year.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like
that's why it sparked my mind to go and look for a picture of him like getting introduced by the A's because like he got introduced at a press conference and everything.
Yeah, for sure. I just can't imagine him after what we've seen so far in his short NFL career playing baseball at all. And it was such a big question when we were talking about it almost 2 years ago. It was so
Jared.
Yeah, it was so controversial whether he should stay with football or stay with baseball or go to football. And it was definitely the right decision to go to football.
Might win an MVP this year. His team probably going to be in the playoffs. I mean, and it's just year 2 for him. So,
yeah, one of the most exciting players to watch in the NFL right now, for sure.
Okay, but that's pretty much it. So I'll tell you guys, we got one thing to talk about, obviously, after I tell you guys about Keats Barbershop, as I do every week. Keats Barbershop is an old-fashioned barbershop. It's located at 180 Brighton Avenue in Rochester, PA. It is open 11 to 7, Tuesday through Friday, 9 to 4 on Saturday. Every Tuesday is $5 off for military personnel, first responders, and nurses. Again, that's Keats Barbershop at 180 Brighton Avenue in Rochester, PA. I keep mentioning on here, but we're at the point now where we're talking about less than a month to get your donations in for Rocking Around the 412. Actually, as of a couple days ago, I completed shopping already for the first family. So big shout out to me for doing that. No, I'm just kidding. Shout out to you guys for providing the money to be able to do this. Honestly, I talked about it a little bit on the fantasy show with Donnie last night, but it's just like it warms my heart every time that I check out my cart and get this stuff and start wrapping it for these families. It's amazing what you guys help us do. So we can't thank you enough. Obviously, with what Crowworthy's doing this year, their donation, is going to be huge, and we're super excited for that. But yeah, already one family down. We're going to start shopping for the second family as soon as our video editor, Sarge, gets me a list. So he needs to get on that. I'm calling him out on the show so you guys can get on him too. But yeah, awesome stuff. If you want to get involved, just search on Twitter at Around the 412, our Twitter handle, with the word rockin'. It should come up right away. It'll be a video with me in it. My beard probably pretty similar length at the time, with a link to the GoFundMe where you can donate. Every single penny that is put into that goes to these families. We pay for the prizes that go to you guys. If you donate at least $20, you'll be eligible to win any of the prizes, which include actually we just got a new donation for a prize. Somebody just gave me a James Conner jersey, so that's going to be included in the prizes. A Juju Smith-Schuster signed football, a Jack Ham signed pylon, a Minka Fitzpatrick signed jersey, Brian Russ signed puck, Chase Claypool first touchdown autographed photo, Benny Snell autographed photo, Joe Musgrove signed baseball. So ton of stuff for you guys to win. And with where we're at right now, like 50% of the people that donate are going to win a prize. So I like your odds if you can get in on this action. So go to the GoFundMe link, donate. Every single dollar counts. But if you donate at least $20, you're going to be eligible to win any of the stuff that I just stated. So thanks for everybody that's already involved. And thank you in advance for everybody that's going to be involved.
Do you wrap the stuff, or does your mom wrap the stuff? Because I'll be honest, my mom wraps the stuff because I look like a toddler wrapping things.
Last year, Sarge and I did it for Sarge's sister, and it didn't turn out too well. So my mom said she would do it this year for the family that we just finished buying for. And Sarge's mom is going to wrap for Sarge's sister.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm 25 years old, going to be 26 in a couple months. I cannot wrap a present to save my life.
And also, I will mention that we are hopeful that the funds will get to the point where we can help a third family as well. So if you want us to keep you in mind, or a family that you know in mind, reach out to us. You can DM us or send us an email, roundthe412@gmail.com. And we will keep you in mind this holiday season for sure. Anything that we can do to help, we'd love to. So reach out to us if you are in need, or if you know a family in need. And like I said, we'll keep you in mind. So other than that, thanks for listening to Around the 412. This has been a presentation of Crowworthy. Winners are serving winners coast to coast with sports, gambling, fantasy, and more. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Around the 412. Follow them at Crowworthy. Visit the Pittsburgh City page at crowworthy.com for podcasts such as this one, blogs, and more. Until next week, it's been Smitty. It's been Tyler. We'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.